needed when you do have those weapons available, which any player of any Covenant can use. There are these spears, these hammers, and these other anima orbs that are located all around the dungeon that are extremely, extremely powerful and just do absurd amounts of damage in addition to potentially stuns or silence effects, depending on which weapon you're using. Here we go, though, back into game once again with the right affixes, which, as you can see, are Fortified, Raging, and Storming. And there is Golden Guardians with that massive pull onto the first boss.
So we see the Pride mob just spawning while this whole pull is happening right there for Golden Guardians. They have the Pride mob plus the boss at this point. And while this whole pull was happening, Yoda actually jumped over to that Goliath, making sure he activates it. And now they're picking up the orbs so they can finish off the boss. But Shakib going down, unfortunately, it is the battle rest for them as well. So this might be an issue as they have to somehow get him back up. There we go. Oh, never mind. He is playing Windwalker, not DK, my bad. So they had to use the engineering rest anyway. Did manage to get him back up. And still, this is very difficult for them as they still have to finish up that Pride as well, missing that damage from the Windwalker.
Yeah, Lighty has been able to save his Last Resort cheat death proc, but Yoda was unable to do that. When he cast that engineering res soon thereafter, it cost him his cheat. So they've used quite a few resources here on that little mishap, but it is still working out nicely for them in terms of just how much they've been able to accomplish here with their very first pull of the dungeon. Getting this boss with all the trash and then the Pride at the same time, they are making a lot of stuff happen in a very short amount of time here. Yeah, you can see, though, just how much of disruption that Storming is causing for this team that all wants to be standing in melee, right? Even their ranged players, even their Fire Mage and their Priest, the Boon of the Ascended, you got to be in melee to make full use of that. Fire Mages, if you want to get full shifting power damage, which isn't too much damage, not a big deal if you miss it, but a little bit extra damage. All of that you're going to need to get into range for those Storming tornadoes to cause you a problem. As you can see here, Golden Guardians take care of the first boss, Mind Soothe the Necromancer there, and they're able to walk through here. We're going to have Lighty activating this Goliath. This is a almost full Kyrian team here, so they have a lot of different stewards that they can use here, and it's a question of just which ones that they actually decide to pop to activate each of these Goliaths.
So actually pretty big pull that they're doing here. They're pulling 3 packs together. We do have this Necromancer that they have to deal with. Once the Necromancer dies, he's just going to kill all of the ads that are related to that trash pack. So just a bunch of single target damage that he can do. But because they've also pulled the other trash on top, they're just AoEing everything down. As the pack died, not only that Sorcerer and the Bone Mender left. So a huge amount of damage coming in by the Golden Guardians. They also had that Orb buff as well from the Goliath, which just helped them out. That's why they're all standing in melee, because that aura, the buff that you get from the Goliath, is just a damage aura around you, so you want to make sure that you stand in melee even if you're a ranged DPS.
Yeah, you can see their management of this prideful, those boasts, the 4-direction one, they're kind of setting up stacking of the players that don't have it on top of each other so that they can avoid that stun, which is nasty. It actually went off during that first boss fight as well, which is part of what started causing them problems, was that a couple players got hit by the stunning bolt there. They're able to make good work of that Pride, though, and this is the second Pride of the dungeon, and it's the second one that they've decided not to skip. So they're going to use this Pride buff on their next pull here. Let's see how big they decide to go as they're getting ready to cross this bridge here. Yoda entering stealth and potentially maneuvering ahead. Nope, just staying still. They're going to actually be doing a pull here rather than any sort of skip. So they're looking to get a lot of count done. They have a nice, big, juicy health target there in that Marrogar model guy. I forget his name. That has, it's something that they can primary target off of now. They need to make sure that they're able to group everything up here. And they're,
big pull.
That's a lot of mobs. What is Yoda doing? Okay, Yoda's used a weapon. Yoda, I promise, has used a weapon of some kind. Yeah. That is.
I think Yoda has the orb picked up because I didn't see it on Lighty, so I was figuring maybe they have used the orb on the previous pull, but it didn't look like it. So it was surely Yoda that picked up that orb and was doing this huge amount of AoE damage here to that pack. That's what allowed them to do this insane pull, as they're also proccing the third Pride mob, as they are on 67% trash percentage. And I'm pretty sure we're gonna see the same thing, or a similar pull at least, happening for that Gargoyle stream as well. So they are a little bit behind on their side, as they're just now popping that second Pride boss, and we'll see if they deal with it as well on their side. Yes, they are. And just doing the same thing, just everything a little bit slower for Dusk Gargoyle stream.
Yeah, about 20% trash and a pride's worth of health now separating these two teams. As you can see, actually, for Gargoyle, they are sending out their rogue on a stealth mission here of some kind, maybe triggering the RP up ahead while the rest of the team finishes off the pride.
I think they might be pulling the boss out.
Interesting.
I've actually heard of a thing where you can tricks the tank, and then you pull the boss out, and it will actually go outside of the arena, or not sure. He did pick up the orb. We'll see if he does that, because it is a possibility to pull out the boss, but because then the ads actually don't do anything anymore, and they grip him back down
he's
here.
Just getting the orb.
It looks like they really just did this for the orb. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Golden Guardians have pulled this boss after clearing that massive trash pool we saw from them. Still have a little bit of that pride buff left as well, as they're going to be dealing with this first wave of ads. These ads need to be taken care of by either being killed or by being crowd controlled by the time the boss casts his final harvest. Otherwise, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. The ones that are crowd controlled, they're not going to cause too much problems. But if there's any that are out that are not crowd controlled, they're going to explode for a lot of damage on this plus 18 key level. There's not a lot of wiggle room for that happening. But you can see the two mages out there, one imprisoned and one shackled. They will be, just not exploding there because of the crowd control. So very well managed by Golden Guardians.
Yeah, so just quickly talking about those weapons, because we see the huge amounts of damage coming out from both of those teams, from the players who are picking up that orb. So we also see that huge pull happening now for Dusk Gargoyle stream, or at least they're done with the pull now, so they also have these huge numbers. And what basically is happening is there's just a bunch of weapons around this area that they can pick up, which help you out. And the specific item that they used was this orb that just does a huge amount of pulsing AoE damage around you. And that's the amount of damage that we saw from Yoda for Golden Guardians. That's what made this huge pull possible for them. So that's definitely something you need to keep an eye out, and that's something you also should be using on live servers if you haven't yet. Make sure you do use those orbs and also the spears as well, which help you out for bosses, but also for trash, as we see those both of the teams making sure they're using it for trash, because it is fortified, so it saves them a lot more time making sure they do those insanely big pulls.
Yeah, you can see Shakib actually carrying that spear on his back right now. It looks like they are not going to be just immediately going up to the... just Yoda is going to be going up to the Necropolis, so maybe they're going to be snapping mobs down in some manner. It's possible that Yoda tricks. Yeah, so Tricks of the Trade is going to proc here as he runs around, and he's got to make sure he gets threat on everything here. He is going to go down, but they should have threat on the rest of the group here, and here it comes. Yeah, so everything is going to get snapped onto Lighty here. It's going to be evading for a couple seconds. Mobs evade now, but now Yoda's going to go and grab that orb. Yeah, and he'll come back in, and they've got a lot of sigils here. Big spear damage coming out from Lip. Shakib also has a spear that's going to be used here, and Yoda is going to be using the orb, and using all of these weapons, plus the ability of snapping the mobs down out of the Necropolis. They are just going to be able to deal with the whole trash area very, very quickly. And they have the pride now on top of it that they can cleave down with this last stitch work. Incredible, incredible technique there from Golden Guardians.
That's actually an amazing pull. And he also, the death was also on purpose, right? Because he needs to get down somehow. And the only way to get down is to die and then release. So this was all intentional. They used that Tricks of the Trade to make sure once Yoda is dead, the mobs just snap down to Lighty. Just an incredible pull. They're up to 90% trash now, and they proc this Pride mob. And even the Pride mob, as you said, was efficient for them to kill, because they still had the Stitch work left, which just has more HP than the rest of the trash group. So they really efficiently deal with the Pride and that Stitch work as well, as they're now moving on, dealing with the rest of the trash that still is up there. And there's not that much left after that insane pull. Wow.
Yeah, that was a really good way to group up a bunch of mobs that don't normally group up. It did cost them some time, of course, having a death, having somebody go up by themselves, and then you still need to go up later, but it's working out well for them. As it looks like one combination of Fleshcrafter and Loyal Creation didn't get pulled there. If I had to guess, I would say this was probably a mistake. These two mobs were probably supposed to come with that pull. But it shouldn't be too costly, because I believe they've opened up such a commanding lead against here, as we can see it does the Gargoyle stream, who are inside the Necropolis now and killing it the old-fashioned way rather than snapping anything down.
Yeah, it is possible. Do you think it might? Nah, I guess not. Sometimes they do want to keep this collector because he does cast a frontal cleaver that actually also does friendly damage to other mobs. So sometimes we see people just keeping up the collector to help you with the pride mobs, to help you with the boss, to help you with whatever. But it looks like that's not what they're planning on doing on Golden Guardian's side. So they definitely wasn't intended, as you mentioned. Now they have to deal with the 2 collectors, which is really just something that you can't speed up, because once this whole boss room is cleared, you get 2 collectors that spawn afterwards, and then you still have 2 extra trash packs right after that. That is all time gated, and you have to finish off that trash to move on. So definitely nothing they can do to speed this up other than killing the mobs faster. But yeah, this was just a huge play by Golden Guardians. With this snap, just huge amounts of time saved. They do have those 2 deaths compared to Gargoyle having 0 deaths, but those 10 seconds, they well made up with this insane pull.
Lighty taking a raging cleaver there instead of it hitting any of the squishy members of this group. Still almost killed him, though. That does a lot of damage. And yeah, it's tough because you can't leave mobs alive and bring them into the boss right from this room, because you need to kill them to spawn the next gauntlet part. So in the past, some teams have made use of like grabbing one of the collectors from the very start of the dungeon and snapping it into this area. That was back before you could briefly do that with bolstering, and you could bolster one up to be like 30 stories tall and then snap it in here and have it kill all the stuff. But now that doesn't work, it's no longer really worth doing all of that work to get a collector that can actually persist through this area, because you do have to kill the initial ones again to actually spawn these waves of the gauntlet here. And yeah, you can see they are making relatively quick work of this, but they're also making sure to save their cooldowns. Because they can't pull multiple packs together at a time like this, there's no way to accomplish that feasibly for them. They're instead just going to have to go do these one at a time, but they can use their cooldowns before and after on the big trash pull before, and then on the boss after.
Yeah, it is too bad that they fixed the issue with the collectors just one-shotting bosses with axes, because I would have loved to see some of those big cleavers being thrown at bosses. So unfortunate that is not possible anymore. But we do see Golden Guardians now attacking that last trash pack, while we see Gargoyle. They are on their left trash pack, I believe, from the gauntlet. So not too far behind if you also look at the percentage, but yeah, still a decent difference in favor of Golden Guardians. It is a possibility that they can catch up on boss, but it's very unlikely, because I do assume that both of these teams are going to be one-facing the boss, so they're going to be killing it once the boss is hooked down before he jumps back up. And even if the boss jumps back up, they can just get him back down immediately with that third hook that the Stitchwork is casting on a boss. We do see the Pride as well spawning on Golden Guardian's side. They have 100% trash now, so they have to deal with this Pride. I do assume you could Shadow Melt this one. Do you think they don't want to Shadow Melt this to ensure that they can one-face the boss? Or
maybe.
Do you think they're just playing it safe?
Yeah, so the other option would be that they know how far ahead they are at this point, and they've decided they care more about safety than time, which is an adjustment you can make in the middle of a dungeon. I don't think Golden Guardians traditionally do those sorts of decisions, though. I think rather than adjusting their route, they usually will just keep the same plan that they've done in practice, which I assume this is that plan. Having a Pride for this, DPS check boss where you're trying to kill it before it goes back up, especially if you're going to cleave down the creation, which they probably are. It's probably impossible to avoid that creation dying with this comp. Then maybe they decide we just need to kill the boss before it does its first escape. And if that's the case, then yeah, having that Pride is definitely helpful. As a bit of a disaster strikes on the smaller part of our screen here, where mode goes down does the Gargoyle stream. They're able to recover it eventually, but it does hurt them a little bit there and cost them, I believe, in the battle res department.
Yeah, so mode did go down on this 2 collector pool, which really is a pack where no one ever uses their cooldowns and everyone always thinks it's the easiest pack. But then you have one person get fixated by 2 of those cleavers, and all of a sudden no one soaks it and the person dies. This is really a pack where I've seen so many deaths, and so many people always think it's like the easiest pack ever, but then you still just end up having a mistake here or there, or you're in the wrong position for the fixate, wrong position for the cleaver, and then you have a death. And that's exactly what happened here for Gargoyle, unfortunately. But we do do see Golden Guardians very well one-facing this boss. They already have it down on the second hook, right?
I was actually completely
or did they have the
mistaken
second
about that.
phase?
Yeah, it escaped and they pulled it back down. So
okay. So
entirely,
they did need 2 phases. Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Which it's actually, if that's the pacing that boss has on these plus 18 keys with these comps, maybe that means that on Tyrannical, if we come back here in a future Cup weekend with Tyrannical potentially being active in here, I wonder just how difficult that boss might become because they did feel like they needed the pride for it, maybe just to survive even on Fortified here.
To be fair, we also they don't have the proper setup, I would say, either for huge amounts of single target bursts, right? We don't have any of those. Well, we do have the Fire Mage, right, with the combustion, but the other 2 classes maybe not the best to have this huge amount of single target bursts. So maybe they could theoretically change up the setup to enable that kind of strat. But you don't want to switch out the Rogue, especially not with the strategy that they're playing, right?
Right. The thing you could do to make this group do more single target would be switching the Rogue into like an Unholy Death Knight or potentially a Boomkin or something, which you could do, but I think that the Rogue is really, really strong in this dungeon. We saw a lot of great use of vanishing, skipping ahead, grabbing a weapon. Tricks of the Trade was integral to the strategy here. So maybe you could have a Hunter do that. Hunter would also do more burst single target, but I think the Rogue has really shown that it's doing great here, even though, as I said earlier, it's competing for that 3rd place slot on the meters as Lighty actually overtakes Yoda here right now for 3rd place on the damage meters on Nalthor the Rhymebinder, the last boss in Necrotic Wake here, the only thing standing between Golden Guardians and a 1-0 lead in the series.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that replacing the Rogue would be a wise play for this dungeon specifically, just because of the huge amount of utility that it provides and also enables some of those pulls that would otherwise just not be possible at all. So yeah, definitely looks like the Rogue belongs into this dungeon if you want to play the strategy that we saw Golden Guardians pull out here. And the last boss, taking a decent amount of time, even on Fortified, this boss has quite a bit of HP. And then we also see the Exile coming out, where one of the damage dealers gets sent down to this other area, meaning you're just missing out on one whole damage dealer for quite a while. That's why this boss can tend to take a little while longer. And then it also might just be some RNG involved here as well, because if it sends down the damage dealer that just has the offensive cooldowns available at that moment, then you're just missing out even more than you would otherwise. But there we go, boss goes down, and Golden Guardians winning this first series 1-0.
Biggest time saves, I feel like, came in the form of like some of these major trash pulls that were able to just be exterminated very rapidly. You see the Blightbone, I think that this is one of the biggest differences between Golden Guardians and PI the Gargoyle, is like just this Blightbone pull at the very beginning. Whereas PI didn't elect to go and do that. They were a little bit slower at the beginning, but like just utilizing a bunch of your stuff. You even have that Pride spawning right on top of the boss. There's the activation of the Goliath mid pull, and then of course you do have, like we were talking about, Yoda stealthed up, carrying that Anima Orb. He's getting ready. He's making sure that he's going to have his Mark of the Master Assassin, making sure he does not get broken out of stealth too early. And then he's able to come out of stealth, have a 100% crit chance on the orb, spiking over 150,000 DPS like you can see on the screen right here. And like it just makes really quick work of the trash pull. You even have that Skeletal Monstrosity, which most people don't even pull that guy ever, but he was just in the way, so Lighty elected to end up just grabbing him as he was in his way. But you did have some really good stuff that you did also see out of PI. You saw Ramfam like running around the whole entire world, getting gripped back across the landing. You'll see that in a little bit. But they also are doing some Mark of the Master Assassin stuff. He's throwing the hammer straight out of stealth, and now he's dropping the orb too. I think the Rogue's utility and the just the stuff that they do end up providing here is unmatched beyond any other class. Maybe they do end up bringing a Hunter, but it would be like a supplementary Hunter, not in like replacement of the Rogue. And like Dratnos was saying, I feel like there's going to be a lot of technology that's going to be merged from groups and runs inside of this dungeon to a point where you end up getting an extremely, extremely quick run, because there's a lot of things that we saw from both teams that can be adopted and can be just added into other team strategies. And I do think the biggest thing is this snap right here. Like I don't believe that there was a larger time loss for PI than Golden Guardians doing this strategy right here. I think I saw this strategy like 2 or 3 days ago for the first time, and now watching it take effect in the MDI, it saves you just so much time. Yoda goes and grabs that orb again. Like Mark of the Master Assassin. He's going to drop the orb. The whole entire trash pull is just going to then be deleted, even though he was AFK for a large portion of it. And like, this is how you save the most amount of time. They literally merged 4 packs into one and were able to quickly deal with it while you have PI the Gargoyle sitting here doing the pulls 1 pack at a time or 2 packs at a time. So yeah, I mean, I felt like this was an incredibly high octane run that I think that we learned a lot from. And there are a lot of things that you can take into your own runs with this kind of stuff as well.
That's right. Just bring Rogue, basically.